Hi everyone,
Hi,
I'm Karen
and I'm May.
and we are from
Boomers
Boomers
to
to
Gen
Gen
Z.
Z. So, something that we're going to talk about today is about your recent bout of panic attack and anxiety. I, for one, have also gone through it, and my children have gone through it. So, let's address this and be open about that. So, don't go away. Yes.
So, I never really realized how serious stress was. I think that a lot of the time we are in a cult of busyness where we think that, like, if we're very busy, if we're able to handle everything, that's glorified. And to just be chirpy and happy through it without really addressing how we feel. And for I was in that mindset for the longest time. And a couple of days ago, it bit me in the bum. So I had my first ever panic attack. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what a panic attack felt like. I thought I was dying because I couldn't breathe. Like I was gasping for air. And the more I gasped, the less I was able to take that deep breath. And it made me really jittery. I started vomiting and I ended up in the A&E.
Oh, before you go on, can you explain to our listeners what that feeling is like, so that
Yeah, so it was at night and I was just at my laptop in my home office. Suddenly, I started feeling pins and needles in my fingers and my toes.
Mm,
My toes were actually cramping. That's how it first started, and it didn't go straight into the shortness of breath for me. So that happened around 8 p.m. And then I thought, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm just very tense. I did drink 1 cup of coffee today. Maybe I'm just jittery.
mhm.
So I went and took a hot shower, and I made myself some tea, and then I went back to my office room. Then by 11, I just kept feeling this heaviness in my chest, and I was like just trying to calm myself down. I was looking at my work. I had a lot due, and I had a lot to get done. I also had some personal things on my mind, and I just felt very overwhelmed. I texted my partner and I was like, I don't feel right. Like it's not like a usual overwhelmed feeling. Like something's not right. Like my body feels really weird and like shaky. And then I started sweating, and that's when the shortness of breath broke. So that was like 2 hours later at 11 p.m.
So it was like a cold sweat kind of
It
thing.
was like cold sweats,
Okay.
and then I puked.
Oh.
I vomited, and I just felt really weak. I felt like I was going to faint. Everything was like very dizzy. I couldn't breathe.
Oh wow.
Um, and, and then once I had like calmed myself down a little bit, so I went into my guest toilet and I just turned on the water and I just sat there because it was cold and I was feeling very like I was sweaty, right, and very like I just wanted to feel something on my body. Um, and then I called the hospital and I said, I'm feeling like this. I don't want to be dramaing, but should I come to the A&E? And the person in the emergency room was like, yeah, you should come. Where do you live? Like we can call an ambulance. And I was like, no, I'll take a grab. He's like, no, we'll get an ambulance. And I was like, no, my partner is here actually. And I realized that okay, if I take a grab, maybe they wouldn't be okay with that.
Uh-huh.
And I just took myself to the hospital and I walked through the A&E, and I was still like so panicky, and they it was not a nice feeling because if you're not prepared for it, the mistake that we tend to do is we gasp even more for air, and the
Mm,
more that you chase that breath, the
mhm.
worse it's actually getting because you're filling up your head with oxygen, and that's what too much oxygen, and that's why you feel faintish.
Okay. So that's
That's
good to know. That's really good to know. But
it
when it
was
must be so scary.
it was so scary. And I had like a child in the house, and like it's not like and he was asleep by that time, and I just really didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help myself or soothe myself because I didn't know what it was. It felt like what was supposed to be like a panic attack, because not panic attack, sorry, a heart attack, because
Mhm.
I was feeling pains and numbness like in my chest.
Okay.
Um, and it's not nice, and it really made me think, like, because of obviously I had to do checkups the next day, and checkups are not fast. It takes the whole day. So there was a lot of time to reflect and think. But I think that we really take for granted the ways that our body and our mind try to signal us when things are too much,
Yeah.
and we try to keep things pent up and like keep this armor on, like, oh no, it's fine, or like this is everything in life. Like for me at least, I tend to downplay things that happen to me. Like I will always be like, oh, like May, like don't drama, don't complain, because there's worse things out there. And I think as much as that's like probably a good way to look at things, it means that I've actually ignored myself a lot of the time and in a lot of situations. And that's also a very selfish thing for me to do, knowing the place and role that I have in the like lives of the loved ones around me. So by ignoring me, if I don't want to do it for myself, then I should at least be doing it for my son and my partner.
True, but I think one of the things that people, now that you've gone through this, and um, it's very scary. I can tell
Mm.
you that,
You've
and
had it, right?
I've had it growing up, anxiety, panic attacks, and one of the things is, uh, I mean, studies have shown that stress, emotional stress, actually is the root cause of many, many diseases that we
Mm.
face today, from cancer, from whatever disease that you can think of, is actually one of the root causes. And when you have this kind of gasping of air and all that,
Okay.
so when we go through all this, right, one of the things that I learned is we have to find a way to put a brown paper bag kind of thing to breathe and force that breathing in and out, because it's the reason your heart is racing and you're gasping is because you're hyperventilating. You're
Mm.
just not you need to calm yourself down, and then when there's a point where you feel that you are able to, there is a bit of calmness, try to focus on that breathing exercise of breathing in for 5 counts, 5 seconds, hold the breath for three, and then letting go. And that, I understand that it's definitely not easy, especially at that moment when you're really having that panic. Um, but that immediate few seconds when that happens, the main goal is to calm down the heart rate
Mm.
and the racing mind. And I think that is one of the things that you have to do, right? What other advice that what could you share with us after that episode?
So I think that like okay, the for my age group at least, working they call us the snowflake generation, that basically says that we're very sensitive. And I think that I've always been very aware of that, so I always wanted to prove that no, I'm not sensitive. But I think that it's about actually tuning in and recognizing that, okay, yes, we have to work hard, we're young now, this is the time to work and chase our goals. But that doesn't mean working in a company that makes you feel like on a Sunday you get Sunday scaries. Sunday scaries is not it's not a normal thing. It's not a normal thing to feel so down about going to the office. You should be down maybe about your workload. That comes down to poor planning. But if it comes down to confronting people or confronting a situation,
Mm.
then it's actually not a work problem, and you don't have to show your strength and sort of like hammer through this when you're allowed to be uncomfortable in a situation and say, look, no, this has got nothing to do with my professionalism. This environment is not for me and it's taking a toll on me. And that is a conversation that I am struggling to have with both like my private life and my professional life. But one thing that I have now been exposed to is I know where I feel good. I know what makes me feel good. I know what type of work environments bring out the best in me, which type of work environments allow me to grow, and what type of shit I don't have to deal with. And I think that if I answer that, I won't have anxiety, because anxiety is primarily linked to fear, right? It's associated to a fear.
Yeah,
Would you say that?
I mean, yeah, fear is a trigger point because we overthink everything. We remember we talk about fear, that most of the time whatever we are fearful of doesn't even happen,
Yeah.
right? So you have created this narrative in your mind, and then you worked it up emotionally. You kept thinking about it and thinking about
Mm.
it. So it's like you gave space to that fear, and therefore it unconsciously it was working up with you. And but going back, wouldn't you agree that it could possibly be because you did not really acknowledge that issue, and you played it down and you try to hide it, and the deeper you try to bury it and then suddenly it explodes. Would that be a
Yeah,
fair
yeah.
assumption?
It is. It really is that way. And you see, for example, it's a very literal example now. So I was having this issue and I just wanted to like I tried to get myself out of the situation. It didn't work. And then every time I'm really bad with confrontation. So every time I'd be like on the phone or meet this person, I'm a very yes girl. Everything, yes, 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 yes. And I wouldn't show. And then the moment I put down the phone, I'm like, oh, that was so exhausting because I was so nice on the phone call. And I didn't want to be nice
Mm,
because all of the things that have happened is still playing in my head and it's really affected me.
mm,
Things that have been said and done. And I feel like I'm forcing myself to be like, oh yeah, yeah, how are you? How's things? Yeah, sure, I can do that for
right.
you.
Yeah.
And then that like on that night, actually, I had I don't know, like I had to confront something else that on that day as well with the same person, and it just exploded in me. And I can't blame everything on just one instance. I mean, there's multiple little instances in my life at the moment that are
Contributing to,
contributing to
yeah,
it. So
yeah.
like, but this was one of the big things. So now it's forcing me to make attention to the smaller things as well.
I think
So it's
those are.
just
I mean, it's such a learning opportunity here because uh, we sometimes with problems we have to face it head on.
mm,
We really have to, because if we try to um, avoid it or hide it, and all that, at some point it's going to come out, and it's like a big lie. You've been lying because you want to be that nice person. You're not being your true self with
mm,
that person or whatever, and then so you're lying through that by being the nice, accommodating, whatever. And then one day your body, your being just say enough. You're not your true self.
mm,
This is not what, you are not being your true. So fundamentally we have to be our true self. I have been in a similar situation before, where professionally I have to come across as polite and accommodating and all that, but inside, deep inside, I had such huge resentment. I dare say, even to some point, some hatred,
yeah,
because it was like everything that person did was, to me, was demeaning, was disrespectful, is the worst kind of being.
at the
I
workplace.
Yeah, and so I also pretended by trying to accommodate, by trying to do the best thing, but it ate me up.
Mm,
So for me, a lot of times I started to have hives. I started to have, I lost weight tremendously because I was not eating, not sleeping. So it was definitely not hormonal. That was
mm,
definitely a stress related thing. And then the minute where the ties were broken, I felt the entire mood shift in me. Like suddenly my body started to relax, and I started to want to sleep. Like immediately after the whole episode, I slept so well for a couple of days to kind of recoup back all the energy that was spent, wasted on
mm,
this. And sometimes, like we said, there's certain relationship that is just not meant to be.
yeah,
It's just not meant to be, not for you. I mean, I'm not saying that person is bad. That person could be really well and fine with others, but somehow that relationship you have with this is so toxic in so many levels, that it's best to cut that tie, because it's for your mental and your well-being, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think stress is like linked to your cortisol. So
Yeah.
how does that
Well,
work?
so cortisol is very much related to, whether you exercise and the food you eat, and then obviously it's like, it makes you kind of uh, a bit more lifted per
Mm,
se. And so yeah, when you're stressed, it's going to zap up all this,
mm,
the good things in our body, and that's where, again, that's where you have your diseases, that where you have your, um, whatever breakout, people who have underlying problem of eczema, suddenly they'll break out because it's just your body is just reacting negatively. And so, like for me, I was my hives were all over from my face, my neck, and it was like the immediately, even before a meeting with that person, I would break out, and it was so uncomfortable. um, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. It would be such a, it is such a painful experience. I can imagine, but that also kind of, so, kind of cement the fact that we must not hide, or sometimes there are problems that you cannot just walk away. We have to come up with some action plan to deal with it, and those mini steps give you clarity on how to deal with it. Yeah.
So it's about, like, I think checking in with ourselves a little bit more, just below surface level, realizing that we don't have to deal with anything. Like if it's a learning process, if it's something that we're learning from, something that's difficult, then yeah, you still need to.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
still need to.
Yeah.
But if it's really like detrimental to like how you feel, and you're really feeling,
Mm.
oh, it's not a nice feeling. I'm still going through it. I will update you next week how I feel about it to see if I overcame it. But and we have to also acknowledge that sometimes other people do not have the best of intentions.
Mm.
So like what's happening to us or to you out there, like it could be part of the plan. It could be what they're feeding off.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be that, because the way the mind goes, like it has gotten so dark sometimes that, like, to a point where, like, before a confrontation or something, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I just feel like I just want to kill myself. Like I don't even want to have that phone call or that conversation.
That's not healthy. Yeah.
And like it was so bad because, like, after I got my blood test results, I was like hoping that there's something wrong, so that it's really not just in my head. I was like, please let that be a bigger issue. Because if not, it's really my mind. Oh, and that's gonna take a lot more work. Like the doctor can't just give me medicine, or like do a treatment. And when I got the blood test, I looked at my partner and I was like, okay, so these are like manageable. Like I can deal with this stuff. It's nothing super critical. And he was like, why are you disappointed?
Mm.
And I was like, because then it's really a me problem, and I really have to address this situation.
Yeah, I think it's in situations like this, it is very much um, a mental uh, exploration and exercise to try to not give space to those negative thoughts. And it takes a lot of effort. It does. And at the end of the day, we talk about mental health in our society, and it's true there are people who are going through a lot more,
Mm.
um, but it's not burying the problems, like I said before. But maybe that's where therapy, or someone that you can talk to kind of work the issue out, is super important.
Mm.
And I truly believe in that, in terms of therapy and coaching, because that helps a lot. Because sometimes it's just, it's not that you don't know how to solve the problem, but somehow you don't want to take action on it.
Mm.
So it's just like walking through that little process and say, okay, maybe I should try to do this first, and then slowly work yourself to solving that problem. But I'm glad you start to feel better.
Not yet. Next week.
Oh, next week.
Next
Okay.
week. Next
So until
week.
then, this is just a conversation for fun between boomers to Gen Z about all the challenges we all go through and are afraid to talk about. Right? So until then, please like, subscribe, and leave lots of comments for us so that we can address and have more conversations.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye.